Give me Toy Town. Give me Toy Town.
Pew pew, pew pew. Run, 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 run. Welcome to Pottages, your critically nostalgic analytical tour of the Digimon anime. I'm your host, Jeff Ruberg. This week we are discussing Digimon Adventure 2020, Episode 23, The Messenger of Darkness, Devimon. And Toya's back this week. How have you been, Touya?
I am all serotonin, Jeff. Everything is good. Life is great. The birds are singing. It's beautiful outside.
Yes, we are recording this soon after coming into some, I want to say very good news? Yes, very good. I mean, it's also after a week of anxiously being on the edge of our seats.
Watching the world's worst television show.
Yes. A show worse than Digimon Adventure 2020.
Very much worse.
Yes. So yeah, it's a big, huge sigh of relief. I guess I should also formally apologize for the episodes in general have been coming out later and later recently, and especially this last week, which I just I could not edit a podcast while suffering through that post-election haze and uncertainty and chaos. And so I'm hoping things get back to it was always a regular schedule, back to a more consistent earlier schedule earlier in the week. So hopefully look forward to that if I can keep up my promise. But so Toya, you was in the last 3 weeks, the last time you're on, have there been any significant or fun updates in the card game you want to talk about?
Yeah, so since I was last on, we had Booster Set 3 Union Impact launch in Japan on October 30th. And it's led to some interesting developments. I mean, this doesn't happen too often because Japanese players aren't as invested in this, but people have been making tier lists in Japan over what the new metagame is like. And it's interesting that we have a Digimon game where we can actually talk about tiers and how things are ranked and which Digimon are strong and which aren't, because usually you're just going off of the reference books and being like, I don't know, Z Millenniumon's power is infinite, something like that. And one of the actual big name fans in Japan of the Digimon card game his username is Kido Joe. it's just Joe, as I guess, I don't know, you're kinning or something. So we got in tier 1, Blitz Greymon Omegamon decks. We got Shine Greymon, Karasmon from the Olympus 12, and then Imperial Dramon, kind of the usual suspects, I guess. These are all big name stuff, but things have been interesting there. But then simultaneous to the launch of Union Impact, we had a new online way to play revealed in Japan that, don't hold your breath, it's not like a smartphone app or anything that will let you play the game online. It's Digimon TCG Connect. It is an app, but not the kind that you might be thinking of for playing a card game, that lets you remote play with people and match with them. You can create private matches or get matched randomly with people and use your smartphone to record the physical play space that you are placing your cards down on, and see your opponent's space on screen and play against each other in person remotely.
Right, so it's more of a video chat service than it's like a connection matchmaking service, right?
Right. It's a matchmaking service. I think they showed that there would be battle rankings for are you just looking to learn the rules of the game, or are you an experienced player? And then it also has a neat feature that there's on-screen guides for how to set up the camera to align the cards so that everything can be clearly seen by your opponent. So it displays a grid, and it's this is where your deck goes. This is how much of the area that needs to be visible to facilitate play. It's not perfect. I mean, there will probably be cheating on this in some way, but it's something, right? With all the card shops closed, and we don't have word of it getting localized, I believe, but there's the possibility that this could get brought over to help make the launch of the Digimon card game in English in January go a little bit smoother.
Yeah, we were talking off mic before the podcast about how concerning it is to launch this card game in the middle of a pandemic, and to kind of have the whole thing live or die on whether people are willing to risk their lives to play it. And if they at least make it somewhat easier to play online, that would be really nice.
Yeah, anything to keep it going. If we go down, we're gonna go down fighting. I'll say that much. I'm not backing out. And then, right, so since last time, we also got we got the official website, the English website for North America and Europe updated with like English versions of all of the cards in their own database. So you can actually go on there and browse like all of the starter deck 1 cards and 2 and 3. And then also we have the full set list for the special booster 1.0 that's launching in January that combines most of the cards from like sets 1 and 2 and a little bit of 3 into one massive set to like get us up to speed with Japan as fast as possible and have a synchronized global format. I think we still don't have 1.5 just yet, unless it like magically happened in the past hour or so.
But presumably 1.5 is everything in sets 1 to 3 minus the stuff that's in 1.0, right?
Yeah, which I haven't actually gone in depth and like, I mean, I had notes written about, I remember when I was putting the set list on my website, I had taken notes on like, so this is what's missing from sets 1 and 2, and it like wasn't really consequential things for the most part. Like, I think black is almost completely intact. It might be missing one option card. And then other than that, we've gotten like some minor reveals for like the next batch of starter decks. We got Rosamon and Mugendramon and Venom Vamdemon from starter decks 4, 5, and 6 shown, but they're not like super powerful cards or anything. They're starter deck material.
So I realized that one thing I could do for the podcast, I got 2 boxes of Booster Set 3 in the mail recently, and I've been too busy to open them, but maybe I should open a pack on air.
Jeff, that's not how a box opening works. There's no video feed.
This is an audio box opening. Okay, this is the, what do you call it? The box topper. There are 6 choices, 6 options. What do you guess? I want you to bet on which card I get.
Which one do you not want?
The one whose name I can't even remember right now. The bee. The wasps. Is it Sting? No, it's not Stingmon, of course. What's its name?
Flymon? Is it
Flymon? Okay.
It's a bee, but it's named Flymon because it flies, of course.
Better not be Flymon. Do you get this audio content? Here's ASMR.
It's gonna be Flymon.
No, it's Greymon. That's pretty
Oh,
nice.
you got Greymon blue, parentheses red.
Parentheses silver background, and then the an actual pack. Let's see.
These box toppers disappointed me so much.
They are an interesting mix of random things.
The other sets had box topper Tamer cards in parallel print with like fancy foiled art. Imagine these box toppers. They robbed us of parallel Ken and Daisuke.
Oh yeah, who are the Tamers for Booster 3? I've been like kind of checked out.
Ken, Daisuke, Purple, Mimi, I have to actually pull up my database to remember the last one. Daisuke, Ken, Joe, and Mimi. Yeah, we only got 4.
Okay, so my pack I got Tsukaimon, Arcanimon, and the rare is Belial Vamdemon. That's all right. Oh, actually, I didn't realize they have the thing that comes in each pack, the memory gauge thing,
Yeah.
has been updated to be an advertisement for the anime.
Oh, they're doing one of those, huh? You know, those things are so it's weird. As far as I'm aware, the practice of putting like an insert in a pack, it comes from like trying to prevent people from weighing packs to see which ones have the high rarity cards in them, because the high rarity ones have more sophisticated foils that weigh more. And also from trying to put something rigid in the pack to prevent it from bending in Bandai's card-ass vending machines, which we didn't like get over here. But like the stuff that they will put in there, I think for Pokemon, it's codes for Pokemon Trading Card Game Online, which only exists in the English-speaking world. And then Vanguard for years had advertisements for or not for years, but for like a year, they had Card Fight Online being advertised in the packs. And then Card Fight Online got abandoned by the developer, who I think went on to make Fate Grand Order.
A little tiny game called Fate Grand Order.
Yeah, you might have heard of it.
Yeah, these extra insert cards are flimsier cardstock than the normal cards, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's useful to have extra memory gauge things to play, I guess.
It's good for people on like, I don't know, a budget or something, a kid just getting into the game.
Right.
It's easy.
But also, without a like memory gauge thing, I don't think it'd be that hard to keep track of who has what memory count. But I haven't actually played the game in person aside from when Star Decks came out. So
right, we've played it on Untap. We've suffered for our art.
Yeah, that memory gauge system isn't great either, but something at least. Okay, before we dive into this week's episode, what have you been thinking about the show, about Adventure 2020 in general? I was hoping that, I feel like these last couple episodes have been as Touya core as possible.
Don't insult me like that.
We got more, I guess we haven't gotten more Frontier characters since the Belgramon episode, but we got more Cross Wars V-Tamer influence. So I was hoping that your outlook would have totally turned around and you'd be super excited, but I suspect that's not the case.
Well, we did get Calameramon.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we got a little bit of Frontier. Yeah, so I wished that I wished that Skull Knightmon would evolve into Dark Knightmon and speak, and a finger curled on the monkey's paw. I don't like his new voice. I miss the old one. That like Dark Knightmon in other media has been characterized as like a self-styled noble and an aristocrat, and here he's just like a robot.
And I think even I didn't check the credits for this episode, but on the With the Well podcast last week, Mark mentioned that he was pretty sure that Dark Knightmon and Skull Knightmon didn't have any voice acting credit, so we suspected it was like machine generated.
Oh, well, that would be something.
But he had another line last episode, so maybe he was credited this week.
Dark Knightmon voiced by Hatsune Miku.
Oh, that's that's the Agumon Miku outfit, or the Dark Knightmon's inside the whole time.
They busted out the big bucks for the celebrity actor. So these episodes, like, gosh, you really do insult me calling them Touya Core. Okay, so these episodes have been like collections of action sequences, which they are like candy. It's a sugar rush. They look nice when they're doing them. It animates well. Usually the problem you have is like a well-written show that with great acting and the plot is going in a direction. There's everything like tragedy, irony, comedy. It has all these little bits that hit just so nicely, and then the animation budget is like below the ground. It's not, there's nothing going on. It's static characters talking at each other. And this is the opposite problem. This show is like practically over animated for characters that aren't saying much. And yeah, I'm critical of it. I'm critical of it because I know that Digimon can do better than this. The animation, as always, exceeds my expectations. There's really cool stuff going on, like where Garurumon and Metal Greymon having these transformation power-up things, where Garurumon has like a little bit of, I don't know, Gundam fin funnel action going on, that apparently his little wingtips are prehensile and can be remotely controlled. But like Calameramon has been here for 2 or 3 episodes now and has not said a word. Devimon speaks in like the vaguest of platitudes about being evil and dark, and it's still not totally clear. Like, so they're like gathering data about the real world and importing it back to the digital world. So what? What is it actually doing? What's the goal? What's going on in the world? And that's not there. I think the show it might not be for me, because it seems to do very well what it wants to do, and it doesn't want to do the things that I want from it, which is to like have some kind of actual character arc, something that hits like, well, you've got Cross Wars on my brain now. Nene's arc in Cross Wars. You know what? If you haven't seen Cross Wars at this point, that's your fault. Nene's has this whole like deal with the devil going on, that all she wants is to save her little brother. And so she makes a deal with a Digimon that becomes her partner Digimon, who is like basically exploiting and manipulating her the whole of season 1. And that's really cool to like have that revealed and see these moments where like actually Cross Wars was well animated. So this series has no excuse. There's a sequence where like Dark Knightmon stands up ominously over her during one of his mid-battle transformations, and like there's all this green light pouring over her as she dramatically declares that she'll follow even the devil himself. That level of writing is completely beyond anything that we have seen in these 23 episodes of Digimon Adventure, and that's where I am with the series.
Yeah, it's like the show leans entirely on the visual spectacle for every bit of emotion that it's trying to elicit. And yeah, like even as much as I liked last week's episode with the Where Gurumon upgrade episode, like it was, it's still like it only worked on the level of like, oh, there were dramatic stakes, and I was worried the egg would fall into the miasma. But like really, what did we learn about the characters? How did they change? Was there anything even like you're saying, like you're describing that moment with Nene, like that elicits such a strong emotional reaction because the characters are doing things that feel cool in how they like the character actions themselves are cool. They don't have to be animated well. I mean, if you say so, it's been a while since I've seen Crosswords, but you say they're animated well as well. And it's like everything this show does only works well because it is or is not well animated. And it's like it's interesting how much they are subverting our expectations in lots of ways, but not in any of the ways that we hoped in terms of like these like dramatic character moments. And like when they do dramatic character moments, it's like Takaru, I can't even say reuniting, Takaru meeting Angemon. And it's like that has no weight to it. So like the Nene moment you described has tons of weight behind it.
You just pop into the digital world and you see a total stranger die in front of your eyes.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, like you're saying, it's just, I guess it's not the show that's really made for us. And I guess that's inevitable in that, like, we knew there had to be some, monkey's paw outcome to them trying to make a show both for a young audience as new Digimon and a bunch of returning fans who want nostalgic elements. And I think it's that it has all these remixed elements from other aspects of the franchise, like from Frontier Cross Wars, like this episode V Tamer, like manga things that haven't been adapted to anime before. But it can't do the fun action spectacle, the random references, and emotional character beats. So we only get two out of those three.
And it's frustrating that it feels like I'm saying the same things from episode to episode at this point. Because I don't want to be doing that. I want to be. If I have a criticism of the series, I think it's actually good if my criticism is changing from episode to episode, because that means there's different strengths and weaknesses depending on who is directing an individual episode. But instead, it feels like we have the same recurring problems, and maybe they're not problems actually. If this series isn't targeted at me, if it's not a show for me, maybe that's not an issue if it's doing what it's trying to do. But I haven't met the person that it is for yet.
Right. Yeah, I think the people that it will feel the most satisfying to are young kids who will also forget about it in a couple years from now. So, and I think I mentioned this on past episodes that, like, I think that could be the good thing, the best thing for the franchise at this moment, even if it's not the best thing for us as fans.
It could be some good medicine for the brand. I mean, if being the most vapid, action focused, no dialogue series possible is what causes Digimon to live and then move on to better things. I mean, assuming they don't just retread the same formula over and over. Maybe that is what it needs.
And it seems like, I'm not someone who, I think you called me out on this in a past episode that I have not seen any Dragon Ball, but like from gauging people's reactions, it seems like more and more people are like reacting to the show like it's Dragon Ball episodes, and or especially Dragon Ball Z episodes. And that show has plenty of appeal among adults, even if it's more focused on fight spectacle than emotional character beats. So maybe, this, will be attractive to adults as well.
I don't want to put down Dragon Ball like that though. Like the fights mean something more. Like Dragon Ball, the rivalry between like Goku and Vegeta, which you know that Goku and Vegeta are rivals at least, right?
Yes. I definitely had a point in my life where I like could not distinguish them, but I think I know them apart now.
Yeah, they have like a kind of Sonic and Shadow the Hedgehog relationship. They're trying to one up each other. They want to be better than each other. They are kind of like the polar opposites in that Vegeta is a highborn prince and sort of like how Shadow's the ultimate life form. I don't know why I got on this Sonic comparison, but and Goku is like a sort of lowborn warrior that he got sent to Earth as a child and then just kind of accidentally became a good person when he hit his head and it kind of wiped his sort of Saiyan instincts and he got raised by humans instead of being a vicious, bloodthirsty alien. But like Vegeta has a point in the series where he kind of like betrays the friends he's made up to this point for power in order to get stronger. And he has a moment of like realizing that that was the wrong choice and it was stupid of him to give in to the villains. And then he tries to redeem himself by sacrificing himself for others and ends up in hell anyways. That has an actual like character arc to it. I can't say that I can clearly identify any individual character in Digimon Adventure 2020 having progressed in a form.
Yeah, yeah. I guess the fact that like kind of splitting the attention between human characters and Digimon, I feel like has never really been a problem for the series, but in this season it does feel like a problem where like the characters haven't gotten to develop at all because all the energy is focused on the Digimon, which is a choice.
Yeah, it's a choice. But the Digimon also are not like vocal enough as characters.
Oh no, like they're not actually getting character development, but they're getting animation.
They're getting characterized in the sense of a Power Rangers Zord getting characterized.
Yeah. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think we should probably move on because, like you're saying, I think it does tend. I worry that even with different guests, I am kind of repeating the same thing each week, which is the general frustration with the show. But I think to end on an optimistic note, I think it does still have an allure of like I'm still very curious to see how it evolves, even if I'm let down by it. So, but I get the impression from you that you don't have as much of that optimistic outlook or curiosity.
I'm always willing to believe that things can turn around. And I'm not completely writing the series off because there is effort put in here. Somebody, like, these animators are very dedicated. These actors are doing a good job, even though they're not being given much of a script to work with. And I hope that there's some kind of conversation going on behind the scenes about, like, so why aren't you writing dialogue for my character at all? But I'm not in a good place right now with the show. and I want the show to be better. I don't totally have a hold on what better would be aside from have actual character interactions and like a point to your plot. I don't hate it. I'm ambivalent, which might be the worst thing you can be. Apathetic. I'm apathetic.
Yeah, I think instead of coming to the show for the normal reasons that I come to media, which is to, have satisfying emotional payoff and dramatic conclusions, I'm coming to the show more for like, are there cool little tidbits each week? Like, where Gurumon's upgrade last week. That's a cool thing. Or like the way that Metal Greymon actually uses his arm to like as a tactical weapon and like there's like one shot in last week's episode where he like shoots it out, but then also like grabs it, like bites into it for leverage, so that he can like pull with like both with like his mouth and his arm and stuff. And like I think he's like using the other arm, so he's like pulling. And just like things like that are just ways that Digimon never were able to move before. But that's just candy. It's just like little cool tidbits, and that's not something that I feel like is going to be that memorable in the end. It's going to be like, if there's not more by the end of the show, I think it'll be a shallow experience in the end. But
Where are my vegetables? Where's the meat? Where's the bread?
yeah,
Give me bread at least.
I just want cheese. Give me cheese.
One of my friends said that this is like on track to becoming her least favorite Digimon season. I don't know if I'm there yet, but that's harsh criticism. Somebody else called it soulless. That's harsh criticism.
I can get on board with Soulless. Like, I feel like that show does not have a character, does not have a voice.
We're going through the motions.
Yeah. So, on that note, let's dive into this week's episode. Episode 23, The Messenger of Darkness, Devimon, aka Evil shows his face, question mark? Aka the Dark Crystal, Age of Speculation. I can't even do this bit about pretending to be excited. So, the spoiler policy of the episode, we're going to be talking about everything in the Crunchyroll episode, including the title and preview for next week's episode, but not including any text synopses or titles released online. So, Toya, thoughts on this week's episode?
Devimon is emo.
That's an adjective.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I have an adjective for him.
He talks about his pain a fair bit. I'm still not sure why he's doing what he's doing, but he sure is doing it.
Yeah, there's a lot to Devimon's quote unquote characterization. I mean, it's not really through dialogue, but it's through the way he acts this episode that I feel might make more sense if things are explained in future episodes, or just comes off as really bad execution this episode.
Yeah.
His like slow, methodical, lumbering actions, which I think are just bad action execution, but also like as soon as the episode picks off, he just looks like he's been possessed and he's not exerting free will. And is that just awkward animation? Like his eyes in past episodes were always like, I don't know how you explain it, like not squinting, but like his eyes felt like they were full of agency. Like he was, full of intent.
Yeah.
And then as soon as this episode started, it was like his eyes look glazed over, kind of like he's high, but also kind of like he's possessed and like being controlled.
He's not really there.
Yeah, like he's not there fully. And that kind of, I think that carries through a couple other beats in the episode where it's like, this better be paid off.
I didn't actually pick up on that, so I'm glad that you did. I did notice that like his voice has an interesting thing going on, that as he gets more agitated, it has like a kind of radio affect to it.
Which I did not I'm just like trying to track through, like if he's being possessed and there's someone like giving him commands that didn't sound like those would have been the commands. Those sound like that line where he like had a particular like radio artifacts in it. I was like, this sounds like it should be his own voice. So why does it sound like it's coming through a radio? Like it's weird signal to send and how they're using it.
You were fighting a shadow the whole time.
But yeah, this episode in the ratings on the Twitter poll that I post each week had the third lowest average rating.
Wow.
The only ones that were lower were the Garudamon evolution episode and the Omegamon episode, obviously.
Which Omegamon episode?
Oh, the one that everyone hated, not
the bad one.
Yeah, the one that was uniformly bad. So I feel like I'm not that negative about it, but I'm also kind of like, I'm disappointed in how this. I like the idea of these like multiple things converging in a way that like pays them all off together with the other kids in the human world. Interacting with the Digimon in the network and stuff, and all three locations kind of tying into each other. But it ends up just feeling like the thing that the other kids ended up doing was just evolve the ultimate attack Calamar, and that's it. And it's like you could have done it the whole time, and you spent a whole episode not doing it, and you did it great. You solved the puzzle. Like
they have two plots running, but there's no plot among them.
Yeah.
Remember when Calamar had like a personality? You want to do a Frontier rewatch instead of this?
I guess, and now it's been long enough since I've done a Frontier rewatch that actually that sounds appealing.
Let's do a watch party. I've got it in Japanese. You and me, we can find some other people for it, I'm sure.
I have not seen in Japanese, so that could be fun. Well, let's get to the task at hand. Let's
Oh,
let's
all right.
recap this episode. Yeah, so the episode starts off in the digital world. Devimon confronts the kids, and I mentioned before his eyes I thought were very, very weird in the segment. Even if it's intentional that he's supposed to be, we're supposed to getting more signals of him being possessed. Like, why did it suddenly start this episode? And it's like, I don't know, it's weird and maybe just bad animation, but also like you like if you didn't pick up on it, maybe I'm just seeing things. So I'm curious if people also thought anything was up with his eyes. Write in if you did or did not in the comments below. But yeah, Devimon's Deathclaw is able to overpower Metal Greymon and Weregurumon, even though they like don't move when they get attacked. But this isn't even the worst of the moments where they don't move, so it gets worse.
I've praised this show for its animation. I swear the other episodes are better about this.
Yeah. Oh, well, then it turns into a cover shooter for no reason, because the whole point of cover shooters is that when you're shooting bullets, bullets can't really, get through cover of rubble and, God, what am I thinking? Like walls and rubble and stuff. But when you have a giant Digimon who can slash them away, then the cover does nothing. So, whatever. It happens. In the human world, Koshiro can't get the tanker systems online, and even though they defeated Calamamon, how could this be happening? They defeated her; she completely disappeared. How could it couldn't have possibly been that easy, could it have? But they noticed the obelisk was still transmitting data, and they assume because of that it's going to the digital world. Since it's going to the digital world, that Taichi and Yamato are in trouble. Which
That's a conclusion.
it's a conclusion, and I think I'm more frustrated later when they hear Taichi on the Digivice, and they're like, oh, they hear some stuff going on. So like, oh, he's fighting Digimon. Clearly, this is directly related. Like this data is getting sent directly to them, and I like my logical adult brain is like, this is not a logical conclusion to jump to, but
Hey, Taichi, is there any boat data in there?
yeah, is Devimon evolving into a boat? Like.
Taichi's like, no, what are you talking about? What's going on? Hey, I'm getting attacked here.
So I think it's the least of this episode's sins, so it's fine. But Calamamon reappears and binds Togemon and Bergemon. And this first moment where it's just Togemon and Bergemon, I was worried. And actually, my boyfriend pointed out to me while we were watching that he's like, "Oh, it's just the female Digimon that are being bound." And I was like, "Oh no, oh no, are they doing a tentacle?" I don't even want to say the full phrase tentacle p word, but
You can't say that. This show is rated. I don't know what your show is rated.
I I know from the listener data through Spotify at least that the audience of this podcast is definitely old enough to use terms like that. I just don't want to say tentacle p word. I don't even want to say it in relation to Digimon, so I refuse to say it. But my fears were what's the word? My fears were alleviated soon after because Kabutorimon's like, don't forget that I'm here. Bind me up too. Great. And skipping ahead a little bit because I think this plot is particularly hard to recap because very little happens. They keep switching back and forth between the human world and digital world so often that like a tiny little thing will happen each point. But skipping ahead a little bit, after Kapataimon's bound, Kakamon is also like, don't forget that I'm here as well, and also gets bound. And then everyone laughs at Joe, who is just like, I thought it would work. Oh no, it didn't. Oh no, haha, Joe.
This is weird because they're not actually like in control of their Digimon.
Yeah, and no one's acting smart, so like I find it hard to like fault Joe when it's like they all should have thought to evolve to ultimate. And the fact that Joe is like, well, I thought I could do it without that. He's not being that much sillier or more of a klutz than the others. So, but this plot line where they struggle to be Calamarmon and then eventually evolve to ultimate slash perfect and are able to be Calamarmon. It made me think a lot about how Digimon, like, they so often are in these situations where if they were to evolve to their currently unlocked, whatever the maximum they've currently unlocked, they could easily defeat them, but they just don't do it. And I think as logical fans, we want them to be like, to have an explanation, to say, like, have a character be like, oh, Tentamon, can you evolve? Oh, no, I can't evolve because I don't have enough energy, or your Digivice needs to glow. And I have to suspect that there is a reason that doesn't happen. It's not just awkward writing. I mean, this episode has the show has tons of lack of writing in time, so like maybe I shouldn't be giving too much credit. But I do think that there's a reason that they don't want to over-explain these kind of moments because I think I think it would have a tendency to be kind of the midichlorian effect of explaining the science behind the curtain of the magic too much if they say, like, I think the dramatic reveals of like, oh my god, the Digivice is glowing, they've evolved, oh my god. Maybe they think it works better if they don't, like in depth explain the mechanics of how every evolution happens.
The Metachlorians, though, that was an explanation for something nobody wanted an explanation for. People were fine with the Force just being a fundamental power of the universe and like a mystical thing, in the same way that people are fine with like good and evil in real life, and you don't necessarily have to explain. Well, what quantum particles is evil made from anyway? But the explanation here, like, this is I think that fans have wanted an explanation for evolution with basically every season. They've wanted to know, so what is it exactly, and why is it that humans are so important, and what is their relationship to Digimon? And we don't usually have a season like explain how that functions, and this one certainly hasn't. It would be a welcome explanation, is what I'm saying, instead of one that nobody asked for.
Yeah, I mean, I think the general, like, how does human influence help them achieve evolution certainly is welcome. But I think that, like, over explaining, like, why they can digivolve in some situations and can't in others is maybe too much, or maybe it's just seen as too much to the writers because if they then give you reasons, then you'll see it'll stand out even more when they don't follow those reasons later. So if they apply a very consistent, if they give you rules, then they need to actually follow the rules. And if they don't give you any rules, then they can make them up as they go along. Maybe that's the reason.
Mm. Well, the real reason, of course, that they don't jump through all the forms is so that they can push the merch for the lesser forms too. But
Yeah,
also, it
yeah.
does make for very convenient, like, it gives a kind of formula structure to each episode's plot, because these episodes are being written in advance, but not like so far in advance that there's no pressure on the deadlines. Like, if you know, okay, we got to hit these beats of, so the Digimon are in these forms, and then the threat escalates, and they have to go up to a higher form, and then it escalates again. We got to get them to their highest forms. That's an easier way to churn out episode scripts and write things than, say, have to be like, okay, they always have access to their highest form at all times and will always skip the lower ones, and we have to constantly write around the highest power level.
Yeah, that I'm frustrated by that explanation, but it sounds very plausible. And I'm just frustrated because I wish such a cynical reason weren't so possible.
I'm sorry, I studied pop culture for like my master's degree. I grasp the existence of formula and mass media and the fact that things are created according to templates to like make them easier to produce.
But I guess,
It doesn't bother me that much to say these things. I should point out, I'm not being like, I don't intend it as a deeply cynical negative commentary. I just think that this is roughly how it works. You
yeah.
produce things according to a way that makes it easier to make.
Well, anyway, back to the recap. In the digital world, Data's getting sent to a dark crystal underground. Metal Greymon tries to shoot away the dark mist. Which, how is Metal Greymon going to shoot away mist? But okay, Taichi.
Just flap your wings. Just flap your wings.
Can
It's
he move?
fine.
Can he move his little decayed, pathetic wings that I guess let him fly anyway, even though they would not be aerodynamically sound?
They move in Cyber Sleuth. I think that the lack of movement
Mm.
is usually an animation limitation.
Yeah. Well, Takaru, who had been previously told by Yamato to stay hidden, which we know works 100% of the time, breaks his, totally out of character, stops hiding, and yells at Devimon to stop, which is also the first time he's ever done that. And Poemon is so moved that Poemon evolves into Tokamon, and Devimon is mad about this and starts to like freak out a little bit. And this is the moment that we were talking about before, where like his voice sounds like a radio signal, which, yeah, like I said, is confusing because if it is his own voice, how is there radio interference? And if it's another voice possessing him or controlling him, he's talking about, like, I forget if it's actually here. Maybe I think he's talking in this line about Tokamon being his old friend. So
Yeah.
actually, maybe because all of the language about being friends with Angemon read to me as, Devimon being a fallen angel and them being in that angel group, whatever, together. And I was like, oh, I mean, if they wanted to play this friendship angle, like, I feel like they would be doing Tailmon and Patamon, or wait, Ophanimon and Sarathmon or whatever. And then, like, would they really be willing to make a corrupted Tailmon into Devimon? I don't think they'd be willing to go that far to like cross the genders, so to speak.
Wait, so you're saying like, what if Devimon was Tailmon?
That is what I have been thinking when I first watched this episode.
This is okay.
But the realization I came to in discussing this now was actually that maybe all those lines about Angemon being the speaker's friend were actually a Digimon speaking through Devimon. So
Oh.
maybe Devimon is being possessed by a Funimon follow down mode or something. Maybe. I don't know.
Or Lilithmon.
I'm just going into wild speculation theory here, spiraling out of control like one of Metal Greymon's Giga Destroyer missiles.
Yeah, we're all going nuts slowly. I was thinking, so I did not pick up on the possibility that Devimon was possessed in this episode. I don't know if that means that maybe it was just subtle and I didn't get it, but like when I was watching, my interpretation is that, so we know that like in the past there was like a kind of darkness that attacked the holy Digimon, and then there were Digimon heroes that came in and saved them, and those are the current generation of partners, more or less, right? Like the War Greymon from the past became the Agumon that is currently Taichi's partner, I think.
Hmm.
Is that how the prophecy went?
Something like that, yeah. I forget if they explicitly said that the Holy Digimon were attacked or like if the Holy Digimon just fought back. But yeah, the Holy Digimon and the Warriors definitely fought the evil together.
So I figured that like either Devimon could have been one of the warriors, and that Angemon was one of his allies back then, or that Devimon was on the side of evil even back then, and Angemon was a bad Digimon back then that was like
Hmm.
purified.
Interesting.
And Devimon wants to like return him to his dark form.
Huh. That would definitely be an interesting subversion of our expectations.
Watch it all amount to nothing.
Yeah. That's yeah. An angle to watch the show is just theorizing on fan fiction for a better show. Yeah, so eventually the big data packet comes in and Devimon evolves, and this is what I thought it'd be really exciting to have you on because I thought Neo Devimon from V-Tamer would be I thought it would be this really cool moment, really intimidating bad guy. I thought he was fine.
He looks good.
He looks good. They do not animate him much. Like he basically slashes Metal Greymon, which looks fine. Like he jumps behind Metal Greymon, and like it's not a quick cut. It's like he descends and then attacks him, and then does something similar to where Grumon and just gently pushes him. Which I'm like, okay, if your hand is somehow full of evil energy, that could be damaging. But it just looks like he gently pushed him. It's not a good look.
I need to gif that scene and use it as a reaction image.
Yeah, just actually cut from that scene to Koichi falling down the stairs. oh, I'm going to Digi Hell for that.
It's the new president pushing the old one out of office. He just shoves him.
Oh, um, but yeah, Koshiro connects the Taichi's Digivice. They hear him fighting. Taichi gets determination, and then all 7 Digivices glow. The B tier Digimon, sorry, the B tier characters believe in the Digimon. They all evolve to Ultimate / Perfect, and then they attack Calamarmon and beat her. And even in this animation of them defeating her, it's like hard to follow what's going on because like I forget which Digimon, 2 Digimon like pull her tentacles, and then they just kind of like stop pulling them, and I guess that did damage. I guess. Anyway, they destroy Calamarmon and destroy the obelisk, and then the tanker's navigation system come back online, and then Neo Devimon starts to act weird and flickering, so I guess they seize it as a moment of weakness, where Grumon activates Sagittarius mode, and finally, like this has only been out for 1 episode, but now he understands Sagittarius mode because he actually uses the augments to shoot weapons
Yeah.
like an archer, and Neo Devimon tries to dodge Weregumon's arrows, but then gets hit by Metal Greymon's Giga Destroyer and is defeated. Great. It was a fight, I guess.
Now, the thing they had to censor because it was too graphic for television was that with that Calamaramon sequence, they were actually ripping her open and pulling her apart so hard that she came apart in the middle and died.
Yeah, there was actually like tons of like opening her insides. You see like I don't know, it's really grotesque imagery, and yeah.
B tier Digimon. I can't believe you called them B tier Digimon. They are firmly in. Actually, I don't think they even tier on the current Japanese charts. B tier right now is like Millenniummon in the Lilithmon build, and then the Legend Arms deck, Momentai deck, and then XVmon.
Oh god, I forgot Millennium was actually in the card game. So that feeds into things. Anyway.
Yeah, it does.
Well, I think we have some comments about that, so we'll definitely talk about that. Yeah, so the tanker narrowly avoids crashing. Dark Knightmon retrieves the crystal from the ground and flies away.
Yes, he's alive.
Yes, he's alive. He does not have a voice actor, so I did confirm while we were talking before that there is no voice actor credited to his name.
I got Dark Knightmon back, but at what cost?
They can't just be like machine generating that voice though, right? Like maybe it's a voice actor is uncredited until later.
He's voiced by an animator.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
But Yeah, at this moment when Dark Knightmon retrieves the crystal and then kind of like nods to it and then activates DoneDevimon's evolution, I was like, are they doing the same Crosswords plot where he is going to be the second in command, the Kefka, the Kuja, who ultimately betrays the leader and becomes the main bad?
I wish, but he doesn't have a real voice actor. That's not happening.
That's true.
He looks so good in this
He
series.
does. His animation, especially that episode, was so great. Well, okay. I mean, to redeem this episode, we got one of the best Digimon Encyclopedia entries ever, Lilymon. Wow, did you know that that her current Lilymon does not look like her previous evolution? Did you know? I did not. Wow.
That's because Lilymon is the heartless and Togemon is the nobody.
Moving on, let's do some three-word reviews. All right, so at Karito Prime said nothing and everything happens, and then crap. That's 4 words. I'll let it slide just the one time
Cheater.
because it's very true.
At dot yawning. Oh hey, Archilomon.
Which this isn't Archelamon's first appearance in the Zoomon evolution sequence, but and Archelamon, for people who are not aware, is the thing that grants Zudamon a shell in the evolution sequence, I guess.
Yeah, it has like knives for hands, fins.
Yeah,
Because it's a Digimon, that's what we do.
that's how you do.
It was originally an armor level Digimon that evolved from Armadimon. Oh wait, no, from Wormmon originally. Okay.
What I find weird about it is that like it evolved with the Digimental of Sincerity, or sorry, of with Joe's Digimental. So it's like when I first heard that this new anime was using the concept of Zudamon taking the shell of a Digimon that it like defeated in battle, and then I heard it was like kind of a Digimon in its own evolution line, kind of vaguely through Joe's Digimental. I was like, that doesn't feel right to me, but okay. Anyway, it's a cool thing to have in the evolution sequence.
Yeah.
At Empire Will said, cool enemy evolution.
At Golden Pelt, Dark Knightmon pulling strings. That's also 4 words.
Okay.
I do not accept Dark Knightmon as a single word.
Yes, you're one of those as a spacer, a Digimon name spacer.
I'm not alone. Wikimon backs me on this.
That's true.
Think about an English word with 2 Ks next to each other where they're supposed to pronounce k.
That's what capitalization's for. That's camel case
I hate
in
camel
programming
case.
speak. I love camel case. Actually, that's not true. I guess I like snake case better. At board individual, Takaru's courage crest.
At Drew Softman, Digimon cruise control.
Yeah, and Megadman22 replied to that saying, "Please tell me Jeff will understand this reference," and I did not until I looked it up.
I think of the caps lock as cruise control for cool meme.
I also don't know.
Oh, that's okay. The follow up to it is even with cruise control, you still have to steer.
That is a meme that I somehow completely missed. I would have gotten the cruise control reference if I had. I did not. I would have gotten a Speed 2 reference. I did not realize the subtitle of Speed 2 was cruise control. But so then when I saw, I was like, oh, okay. Dak and Jackster. Devimon's got issues. Don't we all?
Yeah, we all do. At Megadramon22, Stealthy Metal Greymon? Nope.
Just slowly realizing things. At Real Guilboma, maybe. Zudamon is back. Heart, eyes emoji.
At Waldo ARGX, no rookies anywhere.
I suppose, I guess I hadn't thought of it. Is that notable for an episode of Digimon? Might be.
They tend to show the kid forms a lot. No children allowed in this episode. This is a Devimon episode.
Yeah, except for Poemon and Togemon who are babies.
Yeah, babies are allowed, children are not.
At Ursam Rebluck, can't kill awesomeness.
At Grim Catishan, Tokemon's seen things. TM.
Yeah, that just blankly staring into Neo Devimon getting destroyed. He's probably caused some of those things.
Terran staring out into space like I died recently.
Yeah. Well, at Leo Sketch said, "Did someone die?" And they included a pic of the tanker hitting a small boat. Which at the time, I remember that like later, once it makes its final like parking spot, there was like these other little boats that like get pushed aside, and they seem like maybe they went through some chaos, but they're okay. But this one that they sent the picture of, actually, like when I rewatched, I was like, wait, this one actually blows up. So
Yeah, most of these are just like filing a claim with the insurance company. That one's life insurance.
that's dark.
At Writer Vry, gently booped Where Garurumon.
And on a similar note, Joseph Snowstiff, Where Grumon was pushed.
At Gigadramon22, I called it.
And I think that is in reference to these other comments on similar notes. At Lonely Distance, Millenniumon's back, baby.
At Cyphers, Moon Millenniumon actually happening. That's also 4 words. I will fight all of you dub people.
Actually, is it? Is it? Wait, let's question this.
I think in Japanese it might have an equal sign in the middle. I don't
Yeah, I was gonna
remember.
say I think it's an equal sign.
Wikimon has a space.
Yeah. Oh, I'm thinking of Zed Millenniumon, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Is that how that's pronounced? Oh yeah, it's actually written that way. Wait, Zed Millenniumon doesn't have it either.
Wait, there was one with it. Also, apparently the dub at one point spelled Zed Millenniumon with an X. That's some dedication to Cross Wars right there.
Although Wikimon does not provide a reference for what that is in. Maybe it was in Fusion. What are we thinking of? Am I thinking of
I remember this too. There's an equal sign in one of the. They might have changed how it's been written at some point.
maybe.
It may have been too subtle a change to notice actually happening.
But like I could have sworn I saw this like a week or two ago.
Really?
Yeah, like, I thought like in looking up Moon Millenniumon I saw something.
Oh, okay, yeah. On the trading cards for Moon Millenniumon, there is an equals sign between Moon and Millenniumon.
Oh.
And I think that for years it was transcribed that way on like fan collections, like I think what Megchan's fan page or whatever.
Hmm.
But it looks like some of the other promo materials, like on the promo card for Millenniumon for the WonderSwan games, it has in Japanese, it's written with an equal sign and in English with a hyphen.
I mean, like equal signs in Japanese names are weird, right? Like
Yeah.
usually it's just used to be like a like family name given name, right? For like a person.
I don't encounter it often enough to make a clear judgment on that, but I have seen them show up before in contexts where it's probably fair to leave them out.
Yeah. I think I remember the first time I saw them was like in names of characters in Hunter x Hunter. And I was like, oh,
Mm.
this is some weird Hunter x Hunter world thing. And then I saw it enough later that I'm like, I think this is just like how an alternate way to write names in Japanese. But
Hey, if you type moon and then an equals sign into Google search, it recommends Moon Millenniumon, so.
uh,
Oh, Digimon Fandom Wiki transcribes it with the equal sign. We got some fandom wars going on here.
I think your Google search results are based on your. Oh no, okay. I did it on a private tab. Okay. If you type in Google, if you type into Google moon equals, you don't get it, but it does autocomplete to add the Millenniumon.
It's in the old Digidex with an equals sign.
I guess the speculation about Millenniumon has picked up enough fervor that the Wikimon page for Moon Millenniumon is now including the like little flame inside the crystal from this episode as a reference to Moon Millenniumon.
Yeah, it is something that like everybody noticed. At first I was kind of wondering about it, but when I went back to like the 10-minute-ish mark in the episode, there's a shot where that might be the one they put on Wikimon, but it's like unmistakably the little dragon fetus thing.
Mm-hmm.
Incidentally, Moon Millenniumon also well, does he? Does he appear in? Yes. Moon Millenniumon appears in the Cross Wars manga, which I believe you recently acquired and can look forward to.
Yes, once it comes in the mail from Japan, which I spent like it was like $40 to buy the manga shipped to my Japanese forwarding address, and then another like $40 to get it sent
Extortion.
from Japan with any shipping method that didn't take like 5 months in the pandemic.
Extortion.
So yeah, but that should be coming soon. So
Do
yay.
look forward to that. I loved Moon Millenniumon's role in the Cross Wars manga is really good. It might be its best appearance in any like Digimon media.
I guess we should do the final 3 review from Creator Prime. The most cursed one is Countdown to Rio.
I hope not.
I hope not as well, but I think we'll get to that as a direct question. So let's move into listener questions and comments. So first comment was actually on the YouTube page for episode 19, Hal Joken, and Ray of Truth mentioned that I guess in the episode I talked about how corrupted evolutions usually were only given to main characters, and they pointed out that Tri actually had 2 corrupted evolutions that weren't the main character, Hikari and Mako, and I guess I did not count those in my memory because there was like no character development involved. Sorry, but
it was also like kind of glossed over, heavy and Tri.
Yeah, it was kind of like, oh, this is happening.
They just kind of appeared.
It's kind of like we commissioned their artwork for the poster, and now we're contractually obligated to put them in the movie, kind of. But I mean, it does tie completely into the premise of the 6th movie, so it's not totally fair. But I don't think it was as emotionally impactful as most Dark Evolutions are in other seasons. Is why I did not think of it. But good call out. So Andy Lucas TT said, I really enjoyed the threat in this episode. However, I feel like the animation was oddly slow during the fight. Devimon slowly appearing behind our kids' partners, and they slowly turn to look at him in 7 seconds to let him attack. Did you guys feel this too, and do you think it could have benefited from Devimon appearing in a flash as if he teleported around them? I swear OG Adventure did this at times to up the ante, whereas Metal Greymon and Weregumon drastically reduced the reaction speeds here to increase the threat. And yeah, I think this is totally on the mark. I think that I didn't notice it too much when I first watched the episode, but when I rewatched it, it was after seeing this comment, so I definitely was aware of it.
You rewatched these?
I have to write down the recap notes.
I feel for you, Jeff. I feel for you.
Yeah, and then I relive it a third time when we talk about it, and then I relive it a fourth, fifth, and sixth time. I listen to other podcasts talk about it. So, and also like a seventh and eighth time when I edit this episode, and then when I listen to it for quality checks. So, that's just one of 8 times.
I do all my notes and screen caps in one take on my first viewing, and then I never watch it again.
Yeah, I might need to get to that point if I get frustrated enough eventually. But so far, it's not too bad. But yeah, definitely. After this was pointed out and I rewatched it, I was like, yeah, this is not executed well, and I have to assume it's just to pad time.
Yeah, I don't think it was well done. OG Devimon, well, he didn't last as long as this one did, going by episode count. But like even when he turned into like Big Devimon, when he got huge to fight all of the kids at once in the original show, he was more animated than this, and that's like not a good bar to be struggling with.
And I also remember when he was big, I kind of recall him being like the trope typically associated with large entities, like that there's a trade off to being that he's big but lumbering, but
Yeah.
still so powerful that they could barely do anything, even though he was huge. Whereas this was like the lumbering was clearly not the effect. The effect was that he was moving really fast, but the kids were just very slow. So
Mm.
very slow to notice. Which is yeah, it's sad when the show requires well executed action moments to pay off things and it doesn't have.
Yeah.
But yeah, next question from Grim Catician said, what do you guys look for / forward to in a new Digimon season? What do you personally put the most value into? What, if anything, are the things you guys think are necessary for Digimon to feel like Digimon? And I guess how has 2020 performed with regards to these things?
So, in regards to what a Digimon season needs to feel like Digimon, I think that there's like three key components. The first is the digital element, the like integration of the digital world, the digital monsters. Some seasons are a lot better at this than others. Like in Frontier, you get a lot of exposition about the lore and world of the digital world of like the individual cultures in each area. They visit in small towns and like eat hamburger flavored cabbage or rainbow burgers and all these other kinds of things. But you don't get a strong sense of like how the digital world is tied to the real world in that one. It just seems kind of like Narnia, it's magic. And then the second thing is like the character writing, like the actual human characters and the fact that you get very attached to them and they have these kind of clearly progressive linear arcs over the course of a story, which set it apart quite a bit from its rival Pokemon, which is, I don't know if the rivalry is actually there at this point or how much of it was really substantial, seeing as they were targeting different demographic blocks in the first place. But like in Pokemon, famously, nothing changes. Sometimes you'll have episodes, if the episodes have aired years apart, they'll actually have the same plot get retread in Pokemon from different seasons for the same characters, even or just characters that are similar enough. And Digimon doesn't do that because you usually go a lot more in depth with the characters. Like you get a sense of their personal lives, what they struggle with, the kind of person they want to be versus who they are. And then the final thing is actually this really subtle, like these constant bumps in power level, but also bumping around the power scale that, unlike in other kind of shonen and shonen adjacent shows, where you have strictly increasing linear power levels where like Goku gets the Kaioken, and then he gets Super Saiyan, and then Super Saiyan 2, and then Super Saiyan 3, and then Super Saiyan God, or whatever. In Digimon, you have the base child form that you always have access to, and then you have these other forms that are higher in power but sometimes serve different roles, or like in Zero Two, where you had like the armor evolutions that could have a utility role beyond just being a stronger form than the base form and would continue to be relevant throughout the series. And that I think is like actually integral to Digimon's plot structure, that they can bounce around these different scales and kind of, I think it's a little bit of a dopamine drip for the kid viewers, that there's the constant powering up and changing forms and using different attacks, right? That's the Digimon feel in my mind, to answer that part of the question.
I think I definitely agree with you with the like the digital component of it is I think important to me, but not in a I think my what I look for in there being a digital feel doesn't necessarily like you were saying with Frontier not really having a tie to like it just feels like a Narnia that is has visual aspects of it that feel digital. To me that's like
Yeah.
that's fine. Like it doesn't need to actually be tied to our like I think I like it better when it actually ties into and feels like a has a connection to what we think of as digital technology in our world. But I think it doesn't feel to me less like Digimon when it doesn't, if that makes sense. As long as there's still like aesthetic and visual components of it that remind me of that digital
Hmm.
influence.
Yeah.
And I'm really torn because I think I also agree with you in terms of character development being one of the things that I think of as like a through line through Digimon that separates it from other media like it. But I'm also like, I don't want to conclude that therefore this show does not feel like Digimon to me because it does not have real character development.
Hey, I didn't draw that conclusion. You drew it for me.
But I think yeah, I think it's the obvious conclusion. I don't know if it.
They have like 43 episodes left. They could surprise us still.
That's true. I think for me, it doesn't. Like, I agree with your premise. I think it doesn't. The reason haven't concluded that yet from that premise, even though it seems like it should be a logical conclusion from that premise, is that I'm grafting on my old impressions of these characters onto these kids. So it's like these are kind of hollow husks, but I'm transposing all these old memories onto them. So I'm like, oh, they're not hollow. It's like the elegy of emptiness husks from Majora's Mask. Like that's these versions of these characters, but I'm imagining they have the full personality of the original cast. So I'm like, I'm just seeing my old favorites in a new light. And I know that's like that's not objective by any measures, and it's not the experience that someone would have if they didn't watch the original show.
I've been looking for what the new characterization is, and I don't see it for the most part.
Yeah, no, yeah, I don't think it's there.
There are little glimpses, like Koshiro's focus episode, there's something there, but like at times, it feels like the first ED told us more about Yamato than anything in the actual show.
Huh, that's a good point. Yeah.
But what do you look forward to in a new Digimon season? Like when something new gets announced, what are you looking for?
I think I not in the sense that I expect it or I like because I don't think there are very many things that I like go into a season. I'm like it needs to have these things for it to work well as Digimon. But I think the thing that I like on a gut level I'm excited for, and it's weird to reflect on this because I feel like I haven't really had these thoughts since I first found Cross Wars in 2010 or 2011. Because I feel like I guess for some reason Atmon to me felt so different that I wasn't thinking about it on the same terms. And Adventure 2020 is such a weird reboot formula. But like I think what I look for is like what I look forward to is I think kind of like the way you described that Nene moment in Cross Wars, like impactful emotional character moments. Like I think the high that I'm always chasing and never able to fully relive is the Beelzemon Fist of the Beast King moment in
Mm.
Tamers. Like I want something as impactful as that moment. And I guess yeah, I have yet to find it again in Digimon, but that's okay.
You know, now that you bring it up, Tamers is probably the season that best fits the description I gave of what the Digimon feel is, in
Mm,
that it like has a very concretely explained digital world that they show you like how it came into being. They explain who made it basically and what the Digimon are. And the series like tries to rationalize, can they be more than the like programs they were supposed to be? Can they be more than like an evolutionary simulation? And it also has like the very strong character arcs that I guess everybody familiar with Tamers is aware of now, and it bounces around the level scale. But a Digimon season doesn't necessarily have to be as like emotionally draining as Tamers. Before anybody gets that idea, just because Tamers fits the description, I'm not saying that every season has to be like Tamers. All right. When I see like a new season announced, the thing that I'm hopeful for, the thing that I'm looking forward to, is actually like the kids bonding with each other and with their Digimon and exploring the digital world as this kind of fantastic place where wonderful things can happen. And I guess to answer the point of like how 2020 has performed, I haven't gotten a ton of that out of this because the digital world seems less like a wonderful place in this series and more like a war zone.
yeah, like this first couple episodes, glimpses we got at it, I thought did seem like there were inhabitants. And lately it feels like there are not inhabitants. There are just battlefields.
Give me Toy Town. Give me Toy Town.
And do you mean Adventure Toy Town or Frontier Toy Town?
I can take either. I like them both.
They're both called Toy Town in Japanese, right?
Yeah, Omotsu no Matsi.
Yeah, like interesting locations that feel like they have character. Like, I think that is a through line that I appreciate about Digimon is like, I hate when people say like, oh, in this show, like the city itself is a character, like the world is a character, but like, there is something to the fact that like this show, if you add up all the characterization in the world and the villains, and even the main characters, like there's nothing, like like I know the dub is controversial to people who appreciate the original writing of the Japanese dialogue better, but
Tread
like
carefully. You are in my presence.
but the dub adds lots of flavor and like this show Adventure 2020 in comparison has no flavor. That flavor isn't for everyone of the dub, but that also extends to like yeah fun things like Toy Town. Like even looking back, like the first 10 episodes, like the Fire Island arc of the original adventure had so many locations with fun character, fun vibes. If like if we did a vibe check on this show, just
Shove Wergarurumon in the back, vibe check.
I don't know how to use vibe check as a word.
It just means you're killing somebody, basically.
Oh.
That's where it's. I mean, it started as something else, but it's escalated into like pulls out a gun, vibe check.
Well, okay. The show vibe checked itself.
Yeah.
So no one's actually checking vibes?
I don't know. This is a Gen Z thing. I'm the wrong generation to be asking about vibe checking. I don't know what Poggers is.
I don't even know enough to know that I don't know that.
It's a Twitch thing.
Oh boy, this is over my head.
I say that as if I don't have a Twitch channel. Follow me on Twitch at Decode Touya, where I never stream anything.
Like inclusion, I generally try to keep an open mind, and I don't think I've thought as deeply as Toya about like what makes something feel like Digimon to me or not.
I've thought about this before only because, like, everybody when Cross Wars was out was saying, this isn't Digimon. And when Atmon was coming out, they were like, this isn't Digimon. And those two series really felt like Digimon to me. So I thought about, well, why do they feel like Digimon to me anyway?
Yeah, that's actually something that like I feel like Atmon feels to me less like Digimon over time. Just in that, like, as I watched it, I was like, this feels 100% like Digimon. Like, I don't see any, like, the question about whether it is or is not Digimon is silly and pointless. But now, when they're like categorized separately and they're not called, like, they're Atmon. They're not Digimon, quote unquote. So I'm like, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of fallen by the wayside and it's just left on the side of the highway, and Digimon's moved on past it. Which is sad because as a show, it definitely felt like Digimon.
Yeah, everybody that watches it, well, I can't say everybody. There are probably people on the internet who hate Haru and they have no rights.
All right, so moving on, at Empire Well said, the fighting in weak forms is causing narrative problems. We've had a few episodes where the climax is just they go all out, and it's really not working for me. They aren't beating enemies with some personal growth or clever insight or new strength. It's just go all out. Yeah, I totally agree. And like, I think what's more frustrating to me is like when they flip that switch, it just feels like there's no inner narrative reason for them to flip that switch. It's just, and then their devices started glowing, and then they beat the battle. And then, okay, great. Could have solved that problem the entire time, but you just didn't do it.
I've seen it a million times before, and it wasn't funny the first time.
Yeah. So at Megajimon22 said, a question more specific to Toya. I'm more of a collector than a player, and they're talking about the card game. I bought the 3 Japanese TCG starter decks, but no boosters because I'm waiting for the English sets. Does buying the Japanese merch ensure a bigger English release, or do the export numbers get lost?
Buying the Japanese merch does nothing, and I'll tell you why. So actually, very early on, Bandai banned the export of the Japanese Digimon TCG overseas. Like sites like AmiAmi, and I think CD Japan maybe were trying to get in on bringing the Japanese cards and like importing them and selling them to people in the US. And Bandai actually sent a notification. Bandai actually sent a notification to AmiAmi telling them not to do this, and that they wouldn't sell to them. And the reason, in hindsight, is because they were planning the localization all along in the global release. But a side effect of that is that all of the imported Japanese goods that you see available are being acquired through proxy services. So basically, somebody orders through a proxy something from Japan. It ships to a Japanese address, and that's as far as Bandai sees it go. Bandai sees the product being sent to a Japanese home or mailbox, PO box, something like that, and then the proxy service ships it to them for a fee, and then they sell it to us. And of course, all these extra steps add markup to it, which is why you see some pretty incredible prices for Japanese stock and cards sometimes that are pretty inflated. And because of that, Bandai actually doesn't know what the export numbers are. So this isn't I don't want to say you're not helping because you are helping the Japanese brand, but it does nothing for the English side. Buying the English product is how you support the English release, basically. And this is the result of the manufacturer's choices.
Yeah, I was going to chime in and say that like you're supporting it very indirectly in that like if the Japanese release is a bigger deal, then maybe they will invest more in the English release, maybe. But that's a lot of maybes. Hold on, someone mentioned the card game, so I need to do a
Another opening.
Look at the ASMR content. Oh, Angelomon. I do not like this card artwork.
What? Oh, this is set 3, right?
Yeah, that is too busty for how I think she should be represented in this show.
I think that one might be Don't we have a Lady Devimon card that has like the mirror opposite pose? Yes, we do. Also in set 3. It is the same artist. Yeah, both by Yuki.
Well,
Uh,
my uncommon is Clavis Angemon, who looks interesting. A little too many
if
shoulder pads for me, but
if you think that that Angelomon art is bad, like wait until I send you some of the latter era Vanguard cards.
uh, well, any case, case because card games come in cases. That
The
was a bad joke, but
Well, they do, but like if you're buying a case, that's a pretty big investment versus a box.
everyone should go buy a case for themselves. How much does a case cost? How many hundreds?
Like $1,200 or something. It might only be 900. I actually forget.
So you could get a laptop, or you can get a lot of Digimon cards.
Don't buy get a group to buy a case. The real joke here is me and Jeff are in on a case split already.
Yes, don't actually listen to my advice.
Get a group, buy a case, split it, one weigh it so like red player pays for the red cards, blue for blue, so on, and then sell your extras and you make a quick buck.
I'm looking forward to January.
Yeah, I gotta find other people for the other colors because the set is too big. There's too many colors in it.
Hmm.
We got more questions.
So at Megademon22 said, "What do you think of the biblical significance of Devimon calling the holy Digimon his old friend? Who did the evil Digimon revolt against to cast them out of paradise? Yggdrasil, Homeostasis, Genii, Eniac?" So you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I am frustrated that Digimon. It disappoints me that Digimon, whenever Digimon has these multiple instances of fallen angel Digimon, it's like they fell because they were corrupted by some like othered evil source of thing that possessed them or whatever, tainted them. I want like this question is alluding to, just a bad boy who's a bad boy and he rebels, and I want like the general Lucifer archetype of like a hot bad boy who falls to hell, but I feel like Digimon never gives us that.
Yeah, there's some interesting background lore if you dig like deep enough. God might be a person to the digital world. As a pastor's kid, I would say that the biblical significance of Devimon calling the holy Digimon his old friend is there's like, in the Bible, the actual Bible, the devil is a very controversial figure because theologians can't totally agree on whether or not he exists.
Hmm.
The snake in the Garden of Eden, as far as the text is concerned, is literally just a snake. The Satan you see in like the book of Job, this involves like rabbinical lore, but it's actually more like a angel testing people's piety because of, look, wait, I can't get into this on a Digimon podcast.
The deep well.
Satan in the original, or the Satan rather, would be more like a title for an individual angel that tests a person's faithfulness to God, and that's also why he appears in heaven and seeks God's permission to test Job in that book. But Digimon does not understand Christianity. I think it vaguely has an idea of like fallen angels and stuff, right? But also the fallen angels are just like Angemon that got deleted. If I put an Angemon PNG into the recycle bin, does it turn into a Devimon?
That's actually in the lore. It's like a deleted Angemon is a fallen.
Yeah, it got deleted to the dark area, I believe is what the
Hmm.
reference book says. I think it's too early to like call what the greater involvement is, and it would be so easy for them to just like drop this in favor of a different plot thread further on. Like the idea of the evil Digimon, the dark Digimon revolting against something. I joke about, oh, it's always Yggdrasil. It's the Royal Knights again. But they could not do that this time.
That's an optimistic. They could not do it.
They could not do this.
I'm trying to remember in Frontier, Lucimon going from benevolent figure to fully evil. What's the impetus for that? Is he just bored?
Gaining power. Like Lucimon or Luchamon, if you go by the Japanese pronunciation, he like stopped the fighting between the human and the beast Digimon and became the absolute ruler of the digital world, and was originally a just and good ruler. But having the power itself is what corrupted him and turned him into a tyrant, which is what resulted in the Warrior 10, or the 10 legendary warriors, if you go by the English dub, to defeat him and seal him away in the dark area. And then Frontier was the first time that the anime incorporated the Royal Knights lore, which I believe originates in the card game, into it, and had Denasmon and Lord Nightmon, or Crusadermon in the dub, pledging their allegiance to Luchamon in order to like bring order to the digital world again, because they saw it as being in a state of chaos. Sorry, you just set off my like frontier rabies.
No, it's good. So even then, it wasn't the like typical fall from heaven kind of narrative. It was just tyrant.
Yeah, there was no like god in the frontier world. They didn't like V Tamer alludes to a god that might be a human being. And then Savers has Yggdrasil, who is called a god very explicitly in Japanese, and they kind of toned it down in the Data Squad dub. Actually, Savers has a moment where like Dukemon says something very heretical to Western ears, that he says that even gods can make mistakes, or rather, God himself can make a mistake.
Hmm. I think when I think about like the aspect of like a fallen angel narrative in pop culture fiction that I like, it reminds me of like Beelzemon's arc in Tamers.
Mm.
You know, like someone who like just kind of rebels for attention or something and then like comes to regret, but like is never fully redeemed, but is like like, you know, is kind of like mired in darkness to some degree. So like I guess that's the through line with what I like in media. So I do not get any of those vibes from Devimon. I worry that this is just going to be, oh, Devimon was, even if he's like a comrade with Patamon or Angemon, whatever, was just tainted, and then none of that agency.
Hold up, how are we this far in and we didn't talk about DoneDevimon at all?
Oh yeah, I was saving that for the next episode, but do you want to raise it now?
I don't, well, like it, Dirty Dan. Um, so like this feels Devimon feels like a one-off villain to me at this point, which is disappointing because they've been building up to this. But it feels like they're using him the way that they used Eismon in the previous episodes, and then Dark Knightmon is going to be like the kind of the throughway to a larger antagonist.
Yeah, once they are done Devimon with done Devimon.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. Because I said done and then I said Devimon
yeah, yeah.
like
We
pun.
we we got
Yeah.
it all, Jeff. We got it all.
So what's your point there? Sorry, I cut you off.
I think there could be an overarching storyline about like Devimon having rebelled against something, the Holy Digimon, Yggdrasil, some greater power, but they could just as easily cast him aside as basically a monster of the week after this when they reveal whoever the heck Dark Knightmon is working for, which is probably Moon Millenniumon,
Mhm.
at least going off what we have on screen, which isn't much.
Well, you know, Moon Millenniumon is a classic. You know, maybe not in the Bible, but in the Torah, they definitely make reference to the little dragon fetus inside the crystal that is named after the moon and 1,000 years.
The Y2K bug.
Yes.
Yeah, the Torah talks about the Y2K bug, right?
Is that the origin of Millenniumon as a concept? The Y2K
Yes,
bug?
yes.
That makes so much sense. Oh
Yes.
God.
This is like people this is also like people say, oh, Millenniumon doesn't make any sense because he's a time paradox. He's a Jogress of a Digimon, two Digimon that died at completely different times and were never around at the same time. And it's like, yeah, that's the point because he's the Y2K bug. I mean, Diablomon is
Oh,
also based on that, but I think that Millenniumon has a lot more to do with it given that he has an actual time theme.
that makes so much like for people who aren't, I think maybe people who aren't super tech literate might not know like the way the Y2K bug, the concern with it was that dates were essentially not prepared. Dates that had been written in decades before 2000 were not prepared for them to actually have more than two digits. And so once it hit 2000, then it like you would have override, you would have conflicts where dates would overlap. So yeah, the concept that like two Digimon died at completely different times, but through some Y2K bug s thing end up overlapping and merging. Oh, that's very thematically appropriate. Huh.
And like the Y2K bug was in the popular imagination, people were thinking that it would have disastrous effects, like the planes would shut down mid-flight or something, or like flight computers would become corrupted, or actually in the Digimon the movie, the like printed packaging things at the supermarket get screwed up because of Diablomon, and that was one of the things that people were like, oh, this could cause some form of technological chaos. These fears were unfounded, and it was like partially a conspiracy theory, but like my mother was stockpiling water for Y2K, and people were buying guns and everything, preparing for all the banks to shut down and become non functional.
Well, it was like partially hype, but also partially solved because people banded together to fix things before it came to pass.
Right. The Y2K bug was an actual problem. It wasn't
Yeah.
just in people's imagination, but the problem was much smaller in scope than people were really able to realize. I think part of the Y2K bug phenomena was actually that people were scared of a technology they didn't understand, which was computers, because they were not. So back in my day, we didn't have smartphones from birth. We didn't play with rattle apps. We had actual rattles when we were babies. And like back then, the computer could still be this kind of scary, ambiguous thing, which is part of what made Digimon interesting for like looking at the computer could be your friend, unironically and in a non dystopian way. The computer program could be your friend. and fight your battles for you.
The thing is, like, I feel like now, I don't think we're in quite that different a position where, like, technology is even more, so much more integrated in our lives. But I don't think, like, to a layperson, I don't think they're that much more understandable. Like, I don't think people know much about the code that's running on their smartphone that they rely on so much. So I feel like if there were fear and paranoia about some way that, I mean, there's plenty of like misinformation about how phones work that people buy into and stuff. So like,
Yeah.
I could see something like the Y2K bug picking up plenty of steam these days, and I guess that's kind of like the Atmon inspirations. Like these things are so critical to our lives and so integral to us. So that like, but it's also kind of what rubbed me the wrong way about Atmon in some sense that like it's like personifying apps is like such a it's too on the nose. I feel.
Oh, come on, it's fun. It's
Yeah,
fun.
I
The
know.
kids love it.
Like I think when they take it to the app mangako and manga, where it's like these are apps that are going to school together, like okay, that's the level of extremity that I enjoy, and how bizarre and absurd it is. But the anime itself is a little uncanny valley for me.
The expectations, I think, for technology are a little more realistic now, in that people have a better sense of like what a virus is or what a glitch or a bug is and what it can do. Like people know about phishing links. These emails, these preparedness emails get sent around to schools and workplaces about how to spot a phishing link and avoid having your information stolen. People have a better sense of like, they don't think that the computers can magically just shut down the planes that are flying in the sky,
Hmm.
which was a fear that people had about Y2K, that planes would drop out of the sky. Or that like the missile silos would fire missiles that you could like, well, wait, I say this, but we did have the Our War Game plot repeated in the first episode of this series. The second episode, rather.
But that's not so much from like a bug. I think that fear still exists if people have control over technology, computer systems nowadays. They could do those things still. That's there.
Yeah. Well, you could not actually hack a missile silo and launch nuclear missiles. Now, you could potentially hack a like operator station and convince the operators of the silo that they have been given an order to launch at these coordinates. But that's a much more complicated process that involves like social engineering and impersonating orders and stuff.
Yeah, like the I don't know if it's sad, but the reality is that most effective hacking is through social engineering, less than it is actual hack into the mainframe, bashing a keyboard kind of thing.
It's walking in with a clipboard and a suit and yelling at people that they're behind schedule or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the digital realm, that often is like contacting customer support with the last four digits of their credit card number and being like, "I'm totally this person. Please give me access." And yeah. Well, anyway, at Dak and Jaxter said, "Could the miasma be a manifestation of internet vitriol? The kids grow stronger through positive growth, like how the emails helped create Omnimon. Could Devimon's new era of evolution be a mere opposite for those who revel, stagnate in negativity?" And they quote how Devimon says, "Feel my pain." That is a really cool concept. I love that idea, and I don't think Digimon in general, especially this show, is really interested in delving into, like we've been talking about, these general technology concepts. I don't think this show is interested in delving into those, like, really, what does the internet mean? What does a digital world mean? Like, where can they draw inspiration from real life events? I don't think this is the type of show to really be doing that. So
I think it's possible, but I haven't seen any inclination that it is. It could be a manifestation of our negativity about the show, you know.
I do. It would be extremely ironic to me if, like, I feel like I've made multiple jokes about the miasma being like walking into the dark miasma, aka Twitter, ha ha ha. And it's like if they actually say that's real, and I'm like, oh crap, I will be the fool.
Every time you turn on Prodigious, you are injecting your ears with the dark miasma.
But yeah, I don't think we've gotten enough evidence in the show that they are really introspecting and thinking about, like, I know there was a bunch of planning for the original show. I think this came from, I forget his name, the director's notes about like thinking about like how the partnership between human and Digimon like representing like humanity's next form of evolution and stuff. And like there are all these like highfalutin philosophical concepts at the base of Digimon that I don't think really shone through the original show at all. But I don't think this is the type of series where that kind of stuff is at the base planning stage. I don't give it that much credit.
Transhumanism in my children's anime, quite
Demiurge?
possibly.
Demiurge is a transhumanism thing, right?
Demiurge is a Gnosticism thing.
Well, I'm out of my league, so. Did Demiurge mean anything in Try?
I don't remember. I don't think so. I was prepared for like the real world and Try to have turned out to be like a simulation inside the digital world the whole time, and that the
Ooh.
like there's a moment in the first movie of Try where like they show a map and it's identical to a map that Koshiro shows in Adventure Season 1 when he's looking at a map of the digital world. And it turned out that, I mean, it's not like exactly identical because it's a lot higher resolution and stuff. It was drawn just for that, but it ended up being coincidence in the end.
Rafi the Sky X said reboot or OG Devimon?
OG.
Yeah, I don't think there's even a question about it. Like, I liked the idea of elevating Devimon to be as plot relevant as he was threatening in the original show. But now that we've gotten him, he's much less threatening than he was in the original show. So it's like,
All Devimon has given us is the excellent DoneDevimon name.
I'm done Devimon with your done Devimon jokes and my own
I haven't even made
jokes.
that many.
I know. I've been the one. I've been the one who committed these sins. Yeah, and Rafi the Sky X also said, "Do you think there will be a backstory between Devimon and Angemon? He seems oddly disappointed when Poyamon digivolved, like disappointed when your friends turned back on you. IDK, maybe just me." And yeah, I definitely got that vibe, and I hope so. I hope that pays off.
Yeah, I'm hoping so too.
So we've got a bunch of different comments about Moon Millenniumon from Leo's sketch from Dot Yawning, but I'm going to read one from Digimon 22, and they said, "The crystal shadow seemed to confirm Moon Millenniumon appearing down the line. Would you like to see 2020 try addressing Rio and have him appear if the character was also rebooted? Or have the Millenniumon be tamerless? We've been predicting a ninth child since podcast episode 2.
No, I don't want him. I don't want him. Don't give me Rio again. Never again.
See, I wouldn't mind Rio if he is fully rebooted without any extra baggage that he comes in with expecting you to know something outside the show.
Yeah, this is the issue with Rio in his original implementation, that he was supposed to be the cornerstone of like a cross media thing where you would play the video game and you would watch the anime and you would play this other video game, and there'd be this kind of like subplot playing out across all these different things, and then he'd appear in a different season in a new universe, and it was always kind of bad. It made every individual thing he appeared in weaker for having to try to force that connection. He like sticks out like a sore thumb in Tamers, and in Zero Two he's there for like a couple frames.
Yeah, maybe not even plural, maybe a frame. I'm not sure. But like another thing that's another angle to the WonderSwan frustration and how that cross media plan was implemented is that like they by most accounts weren't good games. Even if they were available to us, they weren't.
Yeah, they weren't fun.
They weren't fun. They weren't popular.
They weren't good WonderSwan games either.
So like part of me wonders, like, what if we were talking about a character from Cyber Sleuth? Would we want a character from Cyber Sleuth to be the cornerstone of Digimon cross media and like appearing in the anime and stuff? And maybe
No, I never want to see Rena again.
like I would not mind if Rena's appearance in Cyber Sleuth, I was able to appreciate without having played where did she originate?
Redigitized Decode on the 3DS. She wasn't actually in like the original Redigitize on PSP. She was only in the 3DS remake, which sold badly.
So like I was able to appreciate her appearance in Cyber Sleuth without the original context because it's set up like it's a cameo. Rio is set up like he is the hottest shit around and is, like much more than a cameo in Tamers. So I think it could work if you actually set it up properly and don't hinge the entire season on it, which it just seems like I am so curious like what the mandate that Kanaka had to have to be forced to write Rio into such a prominent role, given that like the anime must have had a much wider audience than the WonderSwan game. So like,
oh yeah, the anime, I can actually send you the ratings data for the anime. It was doing really well. There was actually a point where Digimon did surpass Pokemon in TV ratings.
During the Tamers era?
I think it might have actually been in the Frontier era, but even during Tamers, like the viewership was relatively high.
So like, so I partially blame, whoever forced Kanaka to include Rio. I also kind of blame Kanaka for, he had to have been knowledgeable of the fact that more people there, by definition, if there are more people watching the anime than have played the WonderSwan game, there are going to be a large percentage of people who don't know who he is, and so
yeah,
it's going to be awkward for those people.
I think that unfortunately, sometimes when you have a director saddled with something that they are dragged kicking and screaming into, they will not do it well because they don't want to do it.
And it's kind of like, see, here, this is proving I didn't want to do it.
Yeah, and that's not how you deal with it well. I don't think he dealt with that particularly well, integrating Rio in the way that he did, and not giving us his backstory in Tamers, but then having him interact with these major named characters.
I mean, it wasn't like completely fall on its face. It was like just frustrating, but not like there wasn't like plot discontinuities from it. I guess aside from his like parentage and where he came from and like how he lived in that universe and stuff, maybe. But
aside from his entire existence, there were no plot issues.
But at least it wasn't like he didn't show up and then Henry Actually, I don't know how to pronounce the Japanese name. Anyway, it's not like he showed up and the other characters were like, "Oh, Rio, we totally know you," and we all like, it was like
Hmm.
he was set up in the story as a character they met, and some of them had backstories with him before, but like, it wasn't like so extreme that it like as a kid I was able to watch it and think he was cool and wish I was him without being like, what the hell's going on? So had decent competency at least.
I apologize to my friend Justice for ragging on Rio because Justimon is like their favorite Digimon, and Rio is the reason that that Digimon is in Tamers. But I have standards.
So like, there's nothing I think inherently wrong with the concept of Rio, but I also don't. Yeah, I don't know. I really like the idea of using Millennium on in this series since it is like a specter that hangs over the original adventure continuity.
Yeah, I'm glad that they're using him. I want him to be like better executed, which the handling of antagonists so far doesn't give me a ton of faith in that, but I can be
Yeah,
hopeful for it. I know that if they put the effort into it, like the thing that kills me is this show could be really well written if they wanted it to be. They're choosing not to make it this way.
yeah, it's clearly not the priority.
And I'm fine with Millennium being tamerless. Like, actually, in that Cross Wars manga that you are awaiting the arrival of, Millenniumon is tamerless in that.
Yeah, I mean, the assumption of villains is they're tamerless, right? I think
Yeah.
it
These big, like, final bossy Digimon with these huge forms and all these powers, it's very effective when they are their own character.
yeah, I at this point I would appreciate any kind of shakeup to any further shakeup to the adventure formula. So it's like an evil kid, a kid who has partnered with some other kind of Digimon. Like those are all things that at this point excite me more than the dread of Rio. So I would welcome anything at this point to be different enough to excite me. So before we close out the show, I think we should rate the episode. And what do you want to rate this episode out of five little cute Tokamon rolling away from DoneDevimon?
I think I will give this 3 out of 5 Tokomons. Despite ragging on this episode quite a bit, I think that the overall package of having the antagonist being actually presented and conversant a bit and alluding to bigger things that are happening in the series, and then have him fight like this, and also have the surprise of like, oh, Dark Knightmon's actually kind of not working for him like it seemed that he was in the previous episode. That was interesting. So I'll give it a 3.
All right. I'm gonna give it 2.5 little rolling Tokamons because I totally agree with you on all those points, but I ultimately find it frustrating if like these mentions of Devimon being connected to Angemon in some way feel like they're just teases. And I'm kind of just frustrated by Digimon in general, mainly because I'm burned by Try about
Yeah.
presenting a cool concept as if it's a tease, only for them to find out it's a tease of a tease, and we have to wait even longer for that to be revealed. And that's what this kind of feels like. Like it feels like we're not actually going to get answered what's going on with this dynamic until long after Devimon's been defeated. That's what it feels like. So.
Yeah.
And do you have an MVP?
It's Dark Knightmon.
I think I have to agree with you there. No one else stands out, and even if he barely did anything.
He's moving the plot along a bit. This very slow Tokomon rolling plot, and he evolved Devimon. That okay. Also, he looks cool flying around on his Dark Maildramon.
That is also a cool shift in like how he has to call out to Devimon to get power from the crystal before, and then he's Lair's like, nope, my crystal now. I'll use it against your own will. Do I want to give it to Dark Diamond? Who even else? Actually I think I'll give it to Where Gurumon Sagittarius mode for finally explaining the Sagittarius in his name.
Ah,
Next episode, episode 24, is titled "The Final Stage, DoneDevimon," where I'll finally be DoneDevimon's DoneDevimon plot. Taichi looks like Taichi is going to fall. He has possessed eyes.
Taichi dies.
That's what it should have been called. Taichi dies. Taichi's done with DoneDevimon. Anyway, and they say like a new hope shines and a miracle occurs. Yeah, and then we see Metal Greymon glowing with red eyes.
It's happening.
Those red eyes,
It's finally happening. Taichi has red glowing eyes too.
yeah. Are you saying wait? So Taichi's going to evolve into DoneDevimon? That's what we're thinking, right?
No, they're fighting DoneDevimon, and Taichi is going to, I don't know, use the corrupted beast spirits of darkness.
So what do you think is the most likely outcome?
The most likely outcome, I think, is a dark evolution for Metal Greymon in order to defeat DoneDevimon, possibly catalyzed by this Moon Millenniumon crystal thing. I don't know. Maybe if the goal was to corrupt one of the chosen children's Digimon all along, then they're just switching targets from Angemon to, or rather, from Tokomon to Metal Greymon. I think he's going to evolve into Mugendramon finally, which has been foreshadowed in the animation a bit, but hasn't really been alluded into the text because there's not a lot of text in this show.
Yeah, I'm curious to look at like a script of the show and be like, there were 5 lines this episode. what I feel like it would boil down to. Yeah, there was like in the final like cut of the preview when you see Metal Greymon's eyes glow. And maybe it's just the fact that his eyes are glowing, but like it felt very Machine Dramon Mugenjamon to me. Maybe it's just because I've been so primed to see it coming, but something about the way he moved just like really gave me those Mugenjamon vibes. And yeah, I think the most likely outcome is going to be Machine Dramon Mugenjamon. But I don't trust the show to do the character development necessary for a dark evolution. So I think it has to be some kind of like direct plot mechanic like the dark crystal being forced on him or falling into miasma or something like that.
Or it could just not happen after all that buildup. Next week, we get cucked.
Next week, Taichi didn't put in his eye drops this morning and just had a really bad red eye. I don't think it's gonna be that extreme, but
Next week, Taichi gets diagnosed with pink eye and has to quarantine.
oh no. Well, I mean, I mean, bad jokes about the name DoneDevimon slash DanDevimon aside, I shouldn't be making jokes about DoneDevimon. Like I've made like the same joke 10 times by now. But like DanDevimon, like the fact that Devimon's name is Dan now canonically is just rife with comedy. But
I'm Dirty Dan. No, I'm Dirty Dan. That was a SpongeBob reference. I'm sorry.
okay. I was just like, would you like to explain your joke to the class? If you bring one joke, you need to bring enough jokes for everyone in the class. Touya. No, I did not get the reference, and you know, if we have Dirty Dan Devimon, then we have to have Dirty Dancing Devimon. So
What if the reason he's called DoneDevimon is because they wanted to call him Damn Devimon, and then they were like, you can't use that. That's a bad word in English.
what if he's called DoneDevimon because this is the real plot twist of the show? It's like, how we said it'd be 66 episodes, or they didn't say that, but you know, there's evidence. And then they're like, nope, it's done. The final episode's DoneDevimon. Done. There, we should have seen it coming.
24 episode anime. It stacks up. That's 2 cores.
Yeah,
We're fine.
yeah. Well, I am excited for this new Devimon form.
That makes one of us.
I forget where I saw it. Sorry for not creating this person. I can't remember where I saw this. That the new forms introduced as anime have all been very like simplistic. Like
Yeah.
Aizmon, Nidhogmon, and DoneDevimon are all kind of like they don't have tons of detail, and I think that's fair and true. But I think it's just an aesthetic choice. I don't think it's necessarily wrong or worse.
Yeah. It does feel a bit more like back to basics, take a conservative approach to the design in order to not change the core of it too much so that fans like still recognize it. Like this is still clearly Devimon, this is still clearly Metal Greymon, but they're just like
Even DoneDevimon though, like that screenshot from the preview, I'm like, this looks like not like any Devimon I know, which I appreciate. I like that it's like so extreme.
well, the head is still there, the silhouette is there. The upper body, well, I guess the shoulders are actually a pretty big departure, and the collar. That's more
Uh,
Vamdemon like.
yeah, okay. Looking at the like full silhouette from like this is on the Wikimon article, although maybe if we get better screenshots later, this will change on Wikimon. But yeah, the silhouette is vaguely there, but like the zoom in on the face that was in the preview is like I can't place what it reminds me of.
It reminds me of like Venom from the Spider-Man comics.
Yeah, I think I was getting that kind of vibe, but also like a kind of Invader Zim aesthetic, like
Mm.
very like loud, exaggerated features.
I wonder if this Digimon was designed by Watanabe because he's like really influenced by American comic artists, and this has that kind of feel to it.
Oh,
I think I'll warm up to this Digimon when I see it in a video game.
huh. I will warm up to Digimon if it moves next week. That's my bar.
I will not take that bet.
Yeah, I'm not hoping, I'm not expecting it. But anyway, that brings us to the end of the show. That brings us, we're done Devimon with this show. Last week's Digiprompt was in honor of Metal Greymon Alterous mode and Weregumon Sagittarius mode. What kind of upgrade would you like to see another Adventure 2020 Digimon get?
Ooh.
And my favorite response came in from Kurudo Prime, and he just said, Zudomon Hammer mode. He gets a bigger hammer. And I love that idea because I just want I want the most extreme. You know, like the image of Terriermon holding Zudomon's hammer from Tamers.
Yeah.
I want like a hammer so big that it makes Zudomon look like that scale in relation to the new hammer.
Well, when that's all you have, you just go big. And
Yeah, go big or go home. All right, so this week's Digiprompt is in honor of NeoDevimon and his next form. What villain from any Digimon media would you want to see appear in Adventure 2020 with a new evolution, and what would the new form's theme be?
ooh.
Send your responses and general feedback to potages@gmail.com, potages on Twitter, or in the episode comments on our website, potages.com. If this is your first episode, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or in traditional podcast apps. But I know from looking at the stats, that's probably very unlikely. I don't think new people are listening at this point because most people are done Devimon with this Done Devimon show. If you want to support the podcast, share with your friends who provide remote tech support to save your neck, even though you don't want to share the spotlight with them. And that I worded that so vaguely that I don't know if it's clear that I'm talking about
Are you
the.
calling out one of your co-hosts? Are you calling out
No,
me?
what?
I've never provided tech support for you.
I'm calling out Koshiro. They did not want to give him the spotlight, but he
Oh,
deserved it.
oh, yeah, he did. He's a good boy.
And please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps out. I'm Jeff and Jeff on Twitter, and you can also check out my general anime podcast, Love It a Wee Bit. Last week, I mentioned that the next upcoming episode was about BNA, and that has still not come out. So that is still the next upcoming episode. So stay tuned for that and hot werewolf furries, I guess. So, Toya, where can people check out all of your stuff online?
You can find me on Twitter at Towoya, that's T0W0YA, or you can follow me on my YouTube channel at Maniax Channel, spelled with an X, where I will eventually get over my creative block and actually start uploading things again.
So thank you so much, Toya, for coming on this episode. It was fun despite our apathy for the show at this point. It's fun to commiserate.
Yeah, I'm always willing to pitch in when you need me.
And thank you all for listening. I'll be back with another guest next week to talk about episode 24, the final stage, DoneDevimon/DoneDevimon. Bye!
Bye!
And remember, never stop Digivolving.
That's because Lilymon is the heartless and Togemon is the nobody. She leaves behind the husk.
Wait, but is she an emblem heartless or a pure blood heartless?
I think going by Kingdom Hearts 1 lore, she has to be. Well, I actually am unsure about this, despite adoring Kingdom Hearts with all of my heart, because, like, in Kingdom Hearts 1, they implied that the Heartless we saw that was actually that it was the only human looking one in the game. It wore the emblem Heartless crest, but it was also possibly the result of like an artificial process of putting himself into a machine that you see during the game. But I think they went back on that later, and the machine you see is for something else now.
Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory is coming out this month.
Crap, don't remind me. I'm not buying that.
You're not?
No, I'm letting my roommate buy it. I will play it. We will both play it, probably co-op if need be. And then, I don't know, sell it.
I tried playing the demo in co-op and I was confused. I was hitting both sides of the notes and I was like, oh wait, I'm only supposed to be one of these characters.
I don't want a rhythm game. I'm no good at rhythm games.
I'll see how it works out, but in theory, I love the idea of divulging critical, important lore through a rhythm game.
I want a real Kingdom Hearts game on my Switch. Thank you very much.
Yes, that too.
I would have liked Kairi to get a real Kingdom Hearts game instead of giving her the rhythm game spin-off.
Yeah.
The only way they could make this worse if it was like a brand crossover with Barbie.
Not even sure, is she even going to be playable much in the teams that you play as?
I have no idea. I don't think she's been shown as a playable character, but she's supposed to be like the focus of the plot. Oh, this episode pushes me onto a tangent so hard.
No, that was a good tangent. I apparently in the last couple hours drank 80 liters of water, so I was basically Koshiro in our war game.
Drink your oolong tea responsibly. The frontier one might be called Toy Town in like katakana. I don't know.
I realized I typed in Toy Town to Google and then realized, okay, that's not enough to find Digimon. I typed in Toy Town Frontier and I found Lincoln Logs. So
well, you found the Christmas present for your like nephew or whatever. I don't know if you have a nephew.
I do. I forgot that I have a nephew. I don't like thinking about how I'm an uncle, but
Uncle Jeff gave me Lincoln Logs instead of Minecraft for Christmas.
I'm not giving him Lincoln. I'm giving him Gunpla once he's old enough for Gunpla. I'm so done with these DoneDevimon jokes.
They're not even good jokes. Come on, we need to ban this from the podcast.
I'm falling into miasma well of Devimon jokes, and I hate myself for it.
That's because it fits. Like, we're done with it. He's done with it. We're all done with it.
I feel bad that I made you talk so long about something that you were not excited to talk about. So.
Oh, I'm always excited to be upset at Digimon. I always am.